My guest today is Paul O'Donoghue, the founder and CEO of Sales Star. So Paul's a former industrial electrician turned entrepreneur, and he built Sales Star from a spare bedroom in New Zealand into a global sales transformation business, operating across Australia, the UK, Sweden, Mexico, and the United States. For more than 20 years, Paul has helped founders, CEOs and leadership teams turn inconsistent sales performance into predictable, repeatable growth through practical systems and processes. So today, we're going to explore why so many businesses struggle with sales consistency, what separates high-performing sales organisations from the rest, and how CEOs can build a more reliable path to revenue growth. Paul, welcome to Vistage Live.
Wow, what an introduction. Pleasure to be here.
Yeah, well, it's you. I love electrician turned entrepreneur. So why do we start?
Sales Star.
Yeah, Sparky comes Sales Star. Why don't we start with that?
Yeah.
And then there's so much to talk about with consistent, repeatable, you'll get the results sales.
Yes.
What made you change from what you were doing?
Well, I spent 10 years as an industrial electrician. And
what's an industrial? Where are you?
So,
what does that mean?
There's different types of electricians.
Yeah.
There's residential, commercial,
yes.
industrial. I did my electrical apprenticeship at Ford Motor Company in
Right.
New Zealand. That's when we were actually producing cars in a manufacturing plant.
Yeah, got it.
So, so industrial, fixing machines, fixing production lines, anything that has a conveyor belt and motors and robotics. So I was always tinkering with things to fault find, optimise machines and plants. And I say that I've gone from working from industrial machines to sales machines.
Right.
But I kind of apply that, that
And
engineering
but how
mindset.
did you do it? I love where you're going.
Yes.
But how did you do it? At what point when you're tinkering do you think, this needs a sales process? How did you kind of make that shift?
Well, it was more a case I was an accidental salesperson to start with, but intentional. So, and this will make sense when I explain the story. So I had a desire to grow a business. Naturally, I thought that was going to be on the tools. But this was early 90s. I'm looking around going, electricians aren't very good at sales.
Yeah, right.
They're actually not very good at running business, you know. And then I thought, that's actually not just a nuance to electricians, but most tradespeople in general. And then subsequently to that, I realised it's most people that are technicians that start their business.
Yes.
Right. So,
yes.
What it was I wanted to make sure that I set myself up for success and model myself on the experts. So I decided to do another not an electrical apprenticeship. I decided to do another apprenticeship of sorts, which was in sales. So I had the mindset of going, well, why don't I, after 10 years of being on the tools, go and get a job in corporate sales?
Yeah, right.
Right. So I actually started as a sales engineer. And I was selling industrial electronics, which is motor speed controllers. I went up and down the country in New Zealand looking at ways we could optimise processes and manufacturing plants. And so the interesting thing, the first year of sales, it was a baptism of fire. I felt like a goldfish climbing up a tree, basically. It wasn't that comfortable. I didn't know what I was doing. I was having a lot of conversations and I was doing a lot of activity. But, I as an electrician, you work with your hands and at the end of the day, you can go, I can see that. But as when I transitioned to sales, I remember vividly thinking after 3 months, it's like, I'm travelling up and down the country, having conversations. I've got nothing to show for it. But the reality is that company never gave me any sales training. I didn't know what a sales process was, didn't know how to have sales conversations. The mandate was just go and take an interest in the contact list that you have.
Build relationships.
And relationships will get you
so
far.
Take your cake. Exactly. Buy 'em a beer.
Yeah.
Are salespeople born? Obviously, they need training and a process. But is there something inherent in a person that makes them have the ability to become a salesperson?
So this is a really good conversation.
I saw you smile.
Right?
Why did you smile when I asked the question?
It's because you can actually learn sales. You don't have to be born, because there's a lot of misconceptions. You've got the gift of the gab, or you're on a disc profile, you're an eye, and you're a bit of a peacock. But none of that is really true. It is, at the end of the day, what I've learned is that sales is a process. Anyone can learn a process. What sets good salespeople apart isn't necessarily the type of personality they are, because we've developed and we've trained some people that are more the compliance on a disc profile. So they'd be selling to engineers. They're engineers selling to engineers. So what it is once you've learned a process, you can learn how to have a conversation, because all sales is a conversation. Our thing is really, it's about having a consultative conversation. But what sets the good salespeople apart from average salespeople is the actual DNA. And what we do is we evaluate salespeople. 26% of the top performers have 4 core traits, which is they have the desire to be successful, they have the commitment, so there's a willingness to do whatever it takes, even if it's uncomfortable. For example, you can teach them a process on how to make cold calls, but if they don't have that unconditional commitment, they won't do it.
Yeah.
Then it's their outlook, their disposition.
And their mindset. Yeah, that's where I was going to go.
80% is mindset. So you look at the outlook, that builds resilience, right? And it's always, what are they looking at? Is it the half glass full or empty? Do they see opportunities, or they don't? So desire, commitment, outlook, and it's resilience. So
resilience is critical.
Yeah.
What about optimism?
Well, the interesting thing is most salespeople are internally optimistic, which is a good and a bad thing. Because as a sales manager, what happens when you ask your sales team, how that call went?
It's going to happen. Oh, well, first of all, they'll say
95% chance of it.
They love me. they love me. It was great.
So that's an interesting thing too, because we test for a lot of mindset conditions. And one of the things we test for is a condition called need for approval. Yeah. And it's a quintessential relationship builder, has this, what do you call it? It's this need for approval of their prospects to the point where it doesn't serve them. They try to build everything on a personal relationship, but they won't execute on a tough, timely call. So it impacts their effectiveness by about 33%.
So you've talked about DISC, but that's a broad assessment.
Yes.
Do you assess for sales skills? Do you use an assessment for sales skills, or you've got the 4 quadrants?
Yes.
How do you assess the DNA of a person?
Well, we partnered 21 years ago. I did a lot of research when I was sitting in that bedroom at home. Yeah. I actually wrote down on the wall, what is it that I want to do in terms of growing a global business? And I wrote the word sales, training, assessment, recruitment. And I just wanted to take, because at the time I was doing some business consulting and I wasn't a generalist, I wanted to niche down in sales. And the key element that was missing was assessment. So I did a lot of research, searched high and low on what the best assessment tools are. And we've ended up partnering a company called Objective Management Group. They're just outside of Boston. So they pioneered these assessment tools and they're sales effectiveness tools. So it's a bit of a hybrid to look at, do they have the will to sell? Are there DNA mindset things that can stop them being effective? And then we look at the skill set. So now companies can actually profile the ideal salesperson, like whether it's an account manager or a hunter, or it's an inside salesperson, and we can evaluate based on what the company's looking for. So together with Objective Management Group now, we've evaluated well over 2 million people in that time. So and they can be used for pre-hiring or assessing your existing team.
Or development.
Yeah, so good for a development tool, because you're actually getting data that you need to help that individual, as opposed to trying to guess whether, where coaching can be applied.
No, and I know where you're coming from. So back in the day, I worked in psychometrics.
Oh, fantastic.
And in those days, it was the best, I found it the most accurate of all the assessments was for salespeople.
Oh, right.
Because you're looking for a mindset, you're looking for fundamental skills, competencies, and you're looking for motivation.
That sounds like a good assessment tool because it's quite balanced
It's
as opposed to just personality
most
based.
robust. It was a personality assessment, but self-reported like they are. But it was a robust assessment, but looking at all those elements. So say you're lucky enough to have a really good pool of salespeople in your team. What I'm hearing from you is that they're not going to be successful just by letting them go and do their own thing, or they may have random acts of success, not predictable success, not repeatable success.
Yes.
Where does the system come in?
The system underpins everything.
And what is a sales system?
So, look, I'm going to get to that in a minute, but I'll answer it because there's two questions there. A lot of the times, CEOs bring me in to help with more consistent sales, repeatable sales. The conversations are normally around sales symptoms, like the sales team aren't closing. You might have 10% of the sales force doing really well, 25%, just above average. The rest of them aren't doing that good at all. But I always ask this question: show me your sales process. Where is your sales process? Because before you start to blame your people, you've got to look at your process. Right, so your sales process, the second part to that question, is your system that helps your salespeople go to market. It should mirror the buying process of your ICP, your ideal client profile, but it should spell out the key milestones leading towards a sale. So, and that's, when I was an electrician, this is the thing that really helped me shift from not knowing what I was doing to having those conversations to realising, in my mind, I related it to a production machinery, the Kanban production machineries. So in Ford Motor Company, you had these units, and it was you had to have the right nuts and bolts and raw materials, and once you've actually ticked off that checklist, you could go to the next stage of production.
Yeah.
Because you didn't want a car getting all the way to the end, realising that there were a whole bunch of parts missing because you'd have to rework. It'd be expensive. So that was the breakthrough for me. Is when I started to understand sales was a step of milestones, and in those milestones you have steps and actions, and whether it's qualifying questions, qualifying their needs, their pain, their decision making process. So all of these things need to be checklisted before you actually even present, from a discovery. So it's a system of rules based on how you train your own salespeople to get repeatable and predictable results. And the predictability comes if the sales manager is managing the system and the people on the system, right? So if you're constantly training salespeople to a standard practice, a process, you're coaching them on it, you're holding them accountable on it, you're doing deal-specific coaching on the system, that's where you're going to get repeatable and predictable growth. And so when you have an individual that's not performing, you can come back and say, well, which part of the process have they left out? So it's, so that governs, it underpins everything.
I love it. I really like it. And what I see happen is a good system in place and then people drifting from it.
Yes, that happens quite a lot.
And where do you see the drift? So as you say, if it's a non-performing salesperson drifting, well, that's quite good really, because it's something you can diagnose rather than you're not hitting your number, you're not hitting your number, you're not hitting your number. You can diagnose what's going wrong. How do you deal with, say, a manager who's drifting from the process?
Yeah, two questions again. I'll come back to the first one. Salespeople drift through a lack of good sales leadership and management.
Yeah.
Right, and as humans, we can revert back to type. Yeah. We can take shortcuts because it's kind of it's probably inherently wired in us. But if a sales manager is doing their job, which is growing people to grow sales, They should be coaching 50% of their time,
Yeah.
and they will pick up where a salesperson is skipping the process. For me, right now, what often happens is companies right now have a bloated pipeline. Nothing's closing. I can tell you exactly what's missing, right? There's not enough buyer motivation. So for our process in our sales team, I can go and have a look at, did they ask enough tension-based questions?
Yeah, they're in pain enough.
Yeah, is there enough pain? Did they ask enough discovery questions to help the prospect realise, I guess, the impact and the consequences of this challenge that they're having from an emotional point of view, how it impacts their business, the cost of not doing anything. So we actually have to really have these strong conversations, and this is the consultative-based conversations, to create enough buyer motivation. When there's not enough buyer motivation, that's where things get stuck in the pipeline. It impacts predictability, it impacts your closing ratios. So sales managers will drift. Again, I believe that sales managers also need a high level of accountability. A lot of sales managers get promoted because they're the best salesperson. They don't always have the best tools. They also need coaching and accountability in a system. You can't just send them off to a 4-day course and expect them to be a great sales leader and a manager. So as long as they have a process and their mandate is to manage that process and to hold the team accountable and to coach them on it, then that's where they'll get those predictable results.
It's really interesting. I mean, there's an art and science to this, isn't there? It's not just find the person who can sell anything and they're an extrovert and they're great and build great relationships. That's not it.
Yeah.
This is as important as the product development or the engineering or the scientific parts of an organisation.
Sharp into your business.
It is.
Our tagline is the science behind sales success.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah. Is sales an art or a science? We believe it's a science.
Yeah.
We believe it's a process. We believe that anyone can learn it and execute on it as long as they have the desire and the commitment. However, I think where the art comes in is that individual flair.
It's the artful delivery of it.
You don't want to turn people into robots.
No, you don't.
You've got to let them use their own charisma and their own flair. The process at the end of the day is a roadmap. And there'll be some key things that you have to hit, but that art becomes their personal flair and how they do that.
Yes.
Yeah.
So on the way we were talking about Francis Fry, Uncommon Service.
Yes.
And there's something that really resonates in that book for me, and it's the idea of heroics versus a system.
Yeah.
And sales managers, sales people, founders can slip very easily into heroics because that might be what got them there. Or the stress of, this is a tough quarter, we're not going to make our numbers. Well, that's a time that heroics can become a natural thing to fall into. But she would say in the book, she and her co-author, that it's about the system is how you'll get out of there, not the heroics.
I like what she's saying. She's 100% right.
It's worked for her.
Yeah. I see that CEOs can be trapped in their own business because they haven't systemised sales. So they're imprisoned to the individual heroics of individual salespeople. What happens when that salesperson leaves?
Yeah.
They have to step into that void. And sometimes early stage companies, it's still reliant heavily on the CEO to be active in sales and to lead sales. So again, they can't take that step out of the business. So I believe the job of the CEO is to set the standards, because we don't rise to the level of goals we set, we fall to the level of our standards. So having standards as a sales process and raising the capability of the whole team, you're still going to get salespeople that will be the top performers. Let's say it's 25%, but they should fall back to the standards that we've set.
Do you know what is really landing for me here is when I said at the beginning, are salespeople born? I would argue there's an element of you in your DNA, Paul, that is a salesperson. That is the art of a salesperson. And what I'm loving is you're not relying on that. You keep talking about systems. You keep talking about engineering kind of things. It's a system. It's a process. It's following that. It's not drifting from it.
Yes.
And I think that's the missing link, isn't it, for so many businesses?
Yes, absolutely. So it's also inherent when you're onboarding a new salesperson, because I know what my experience was.
Yeah.
Yeah, the onboarding was, I didn't get any training for, I think, about 18 months. I think I got thrown an ISO 900 manual to say, read that and go and make some calls. The thing about onboarding and ramping up new salespeople is you have to have process in a sales system. You should be able to coach them and guide them through that in the first week. Who's our ICP? What makes us different? Like, what are the conversations we have? What are the products we have? What are the applications? Like, what's the put-off that we get? What are the common objections and how do we handle that? How do we put a proposal together? So, our job's to set salespeople up for success, and you need sales systems to be able to do that. And I want to circle back to the question that I didn't answer before, was the sales managers go rogue? And and they do, because what happens often when a sales manager has been traditionally the best salesperson, they end up now being in charge of sales, because that's kind of the next career progression in their heads. But it's often a mistake companies make. They lose their best salesperson, they turn them into a sales manager, and guess what happens when there's pressure on that sales manager to hit the number?
Heroics.
Yeah, they go out and sell. They can't help themselves because they actually haven't connected the dots to, my job is to grow people, to grow sales, and I have to do that based on the sales system. Right? So, and often it's not their fault, but they don't know how to unpack how they've done it, how they've been successful. So naturally they go and try and bring in revenue themselves.
Is it set and forget, sales process, or is it something that you modify based on the team or the strategy or the market or the product?
Yeah, this is a really good question. I don't think it's a set and forget. It's agile. When you first develop a sales process, it's an easy thing to do. You can get your whole sales team involved. All right, this is the best thing to do. I mean, we worked with a group builder and there was 100 salespeople. They didn't have a sales process. I can tell you there's not 100 different ways to sell something. Yeah. Right? There's one golden best sales process. So it's actually about, in that case, it's about getting the sales team aligned to the process. So help them build it. I always say that those who plan the fight don't fight the plan. So if you get your sales team involved in building a process, they take ownership of it. And we just get sticky notes and we map out the key milestones in the process and the things that should happen in each stage and what should be the checklist, everything that happens in this stage to get to the next stage. So you can map out the process, and once that's done, there might be some fine-tuning over time. At a later stage, that doesn't really change until you may change your ICP, you may change your offer. So you might have to slightly adapt your process to who you're selling to and what you're selling.
What did you say? He who plans the fight doesn't fight the plan. Took me a minute to get that. But yes, I understand what you're saying. And it's involving the team in it.
Same with the sales plan. Like, how many times do salespeople get disgruntled because, the CEO says, here's your KPIs. Yeah. And they're like, well... Yeah.
We're
That's
not going to be able to do it.
Yeah. But if you get them involved, bottom-up goals, and, if they think that it's a good idea because they've planned it, they actually take ownership. So it's a better way to get rid of the resistance in an organisation.
Where do you start building a sales process?
Where? Getting your team in the room and mapping it out. I might have a bias on this one, get an external facilitator out there, because you will end up having those tough conversations, right? Because there'll be strong personalities in your sales team. So it's about probably definitely having a coach or a consultant come in that can also share experience from what other industries or what other similar companies are doing, because you want to be able to design it right in the first instance. You don't want to be able to second guess or wing it.
Getting the people in the room, and I hear what you're saying, Paul, about the value of having an outsider who can also steer the conversation too.
Yeah.
Because, well, like any group of people, there's going to be a diversity of thought and egos in there as well. How quickly can an organisation see results from putting a process in?
That's a really good question, and that really depends on the length of the sales cycle, right? So What I can say is we can develop a sales process in one day. We do a 2-day workshop.
Yeah.
The second day, it's all about sales process mapping.
Mm-hmm.
So what happens is when you actually understand the key milestones and the rules and the objectives of each stage, we can actually transpose that to what's in the current pipeline.
Yep. Oh, right.
So
that's the mapping.
Well, so this is where you can get really quick results, is because a lot of the times the pipeline will be blocked with unqualified opportunities because people skip the process.
Yeah.
They go 95% chance this is going to happen. I'll put it towards the closing stage. The reality is they haven't asked the right questions. They might not have been speaking to all the decision makers. Right, so there's elements of the process that they would have skipped. Now, when you've developed a clear process and the rules and qualifications, you can then go and overlay that to all your current deals, and those deals might have been sitting there for 3 months, 6 months. It's a good opportunity, though, for the sales team to go and, re-engage those prospects by just saying, it was remiss of me, I've actually missed
I've been
a few
thinking about this.
Yeah, exactly.
I've been giving you some thought.
Yes.
And I just wanted to ask about...
Yep. Yeah, that's right. And so we call this pipeline squeeze. So what will happen is salespeople will also want to look good. So there'll be a lot of opportunities that stay in their pipeline that actually shouldn't be there, but they put it in there because they want to see that they've been busy, that they're active. The reality is strong sales management needs to come through now and really cleanse that pipeline, getting rid of all of the deals that aren't qualified, because right now we need to be spending more time with deals that are highly qualified. So the objective of process should be really qualifying and disqualifying as fast as you can. And salespeople spend too much time holding on to deals that are never going to buy from them. They just make them look
every pipeline review, you're hearing the same deal.
Yep. But and this is where the predictability comes into your forecasting. Over time, you'll understand the numbers. So at a high level, you should know your probability from discovery to close, your probability from discovery to proposal, your probability from proposal to close. You should know your numbers. And so when you start to know the numbers, or if there's a certain step in a process that happens that raises your probability, now you're starting to forecast with science, not on gut feel.
So interesting. And back to what I was asking, that can happen quickly then. What you were saying is day one, figure out your sales process. Day two, map it against your current pipeline.
The reality check.
And you might close some things that...
Yes, it does happen. You can certainly get quick runs on the board depending on how late stage deals are on the pipeline. They might just need some further qualification questions to encourage that buyer to move forward. But yes, you can get quick runs on the board for sure. But at least you're going to get you will get a cleanse of the pipeline and a really good idea of what's real in your pipeline when you do this.
It's really interesting.
Yeah.
So what I love about what we've talked about is you make what can be too simple complex, but you also at the same time are making the complex simple.
Yeah.
Yes.
You've probably seen the type of process. If you can't fit it on one page, it's too complex for me. Complexity doesn't scale. Yeah. So as a CEO, our job is to take the complex and make it simple, and take the simple and make it compelling.
Oh, nice. That's better than mine.
Right, so...
Yeah. But also to make it effective. And you're talking about sales effectiveness here, which is... Paul, that has been such an interesting conversation. And I think when people listen to this and perhaps go back and think, well, what are the elements of what you've been saying, they will realise that this really can be game-changing for businesses in this environment, in any environment. And it is a pathway to success. So thank you so much for that. Thanks for sharing your insights, and great to have you on Vistage Live.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure.